Grenada becomes the 5th major shareholder of regional airline Liat. Our top story in Caribbean Newsline for Tuesday, May 7th from the CMC News Center in Bridgetown. I'm Dawn Paris. Good evening. Add Grenada to the list of Liat shareholder governments. Minister of CARICOM Affairs Oliver Joseph announced at a press conference on Tuesday morning that the island's move to become a shareholder had been put forward and accepted at the last shareholders meeting in Antigua on April 30th. And he said Grenada stands to benefit from the decision.
And I'm pleased to announce that Grenada is now the 5th shareholder in the airline. So together with the governments of Barbados, Antigua, Dominica, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Grenada at that meeting is now accepted as the 5th main shareholder in Liat. What that means, it means that the government, cabinet has taken a decision to continue to support Liat. When we look at the figures from the number of passengers that Liat brings to Grenada, of course, the multiplier effect is great. Liat brings in thousands of visitors to Grenada every year. And therefore, from an economic and social point of view, Grenada had to support Liat, because not supporting Liat will mean the loss of revenue and economic development to our country.
Official government statistics show that more than 44,000 passengers traveled to and from Grenada on Liat last year. And for the first quarter of this year, that number stood at 10,896. Joseph, who's also the Trade and Industry Minister, said Grenada has given an undertaking to continue supporting Liat's restructuring. He says several models have been examined, but a final decision is yet to be presented to the shareholders.
Grenada pledged to continue supporting Liat, and a number of models have been examined. I say the minimum revenue guarantee is one of them. So it's based on a load factor. So that if a flight from, say, Grenada to Trinidad or Grenada to Barbados is not selling as it should in terms of their number of seats, what we're saying is that we will contribute to the seats, that's why it's called the load factor, to enable the flight to still operate between Grenada and the destination that is going to. And that is a model we think that is fair. If we want to keep the Liat flying and they keep losing on the different route, then they would obviously, in the restructuring process, they will have to cut some routes. At the meeting, Grenada insisted that the Liat should operate as a business and that the operation should be restructured. And so as a shareholder, we'll make our voice heard at the board meeting.
Meantime, the chairman of Liat's shareholder government, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, says he has received no formal indication from billionaire Sir Richard Branson that he's interested in investing in the regional carrier. Chief of Staff in the Office of the Prime Minister in Antigua and Barbuda, Lionel Hurst, told local media last week that the Virgin Atlantic boss is proposing investing $7 million to wet lease several aircraft, which could fly from Fort Lauderdale to Jamaica, Haiti, Antigua, and as far south as Trinidad and Guyana. Hurst said the whole idea would be to enlarge Liat rather than collapse the airline or make it into a smaller entity. But speaking on local radio, Gonsalves said he knows nothing about that.
As the chairman of the shareholders, I have not been made aware of that. Nobody has contacted me about that. So whether Branson said so in an offhand way, in a serious manner, I don't know. You know, sometimes rich people will be talking about someone say something. I don't usually jump like that when rich people make a suggestion until I see something really meaningful.
Gonsalves did note that a few years ago, Liat was contemplating service to Haiti, the Dominican Republic, Jamaica, Puerto Rico, Central America, and Miami to increase revenues. But he said that with all the difficulties financing Liat's core regional market, ideas about further expansion were put on ice. But Gonsalves says that could be revisited.
But you may well have to expand in order to make some more money. And if you're expanding to make more money, you might need to find a partner in the jet service area. But I'm not giving legs to what you and I have read about what the minister from Antigua said in relation to Sir Richard Branson.
Meantime, the Secretary-Treasurer of the Waterfront and Allied Workers Union in Dominica, Curtis Augustus, says regional trade unions affiliated with LIAT are still in the dark about the future of the airline. He said they're not sure what the current situation is, even after attending meetings with LIAT management when it was revealed that the carrier needed a $6 million injection to stay in the sky.
A proposal from the shareholder governments and management required the workers to accept a 10% cut in salaries, which was initially rejected, started by the pilots. However, in the end, the other trade unions were able to influence the pilots to accept a 6% cut. We are still unsure today as to the status of LIAT.
In other news, the Caribbean Court of Justice on Tuesday reserved its judgment in the case in which a Grenadian alleged that his right to freedom of movement within CARICOM was infringed when he was refused entry into Trinidad and Tobago nearly 2 years ago. CCJ President Justice Adrian Saunders heard submissions from attorneys representing David Bain, the Trinidad and Tobago government, and the CARICOM Secretariat. Attorney Ruggles Ferguson argued that his client, who's also a U.S. citizen, had presented his U.S. passport on arrival from Grenada on December 14, 2017. He said Bain was denied entry to attend a relative's wedding and to remain on the island for a few days. The 5-member panel of judges heard that Bain was refused entry after he was questioned about past arrests for narcotics, which he denied. The CCJ heard that Bain also presented a Grenadian driver's license and national ID card to establish his Grenadian citizenship for the purpose of invoking the right to freedom of movement as a CARICOM national, but he was detained and sent back to Grenada. Ferguson accepted that freedom of movement within CARICOM is not absolute, but he told the CCJ that was not the basis of his client's argument.
The first issue is whether or not this applicant is a CARICOM national. And the answer, based on all the evidence before this honorable court, is yes, he is a CARICOM national. There is no doubt of it.
But attorney Richie Das, representing the Trinidad and Tobago government, said immigration officers had acted properly in all circumstances. In its submission, the CARICOM Secretariat said entry into a CARICOM country is not an unbridled right, and that the right to an automatic stay of 6 months is subject to a CARICOM national not being an undesirable. At the end of the submissions, Justice Saunders said the court would take the time to consider the matter before handing down a decision. Belize Prime Minister Dean Barrow says his government is prepared for Wednesday's referendum on whether the country should take its territorial dispute with Guatemala to the International Court of Justice, the ICJ. The vote was initially scheduled for April 10th, but was called off after the opposition People's United Party successfully applied for a court injunction to prevent the vote. The government subsequently went to Parliament and passed the Belize Territorial Dispute Referendum Bill to make the referendum possible. With citizens now to vote a month later than originally planned, Prime Minister Barrow says he's satisfied his administration has provided enough information to allow people to reach the right decision. But he lamented that the controversy leading up to the vote and the partisan approach being taken in some quarters.
It's a pity that it has had to come down to this. This whole business started as a national effort, a national decision to negotiate the special agreement and agree on a referendum to determine whether to go to the ICJ. But clearly, things have become embroiled in the partisan mix. The activities of both parties on that day should help us to have a respectable turnout. The only regret is, as I say, that it isn't that both parties are trying to bring out their people to vote in the same way. And for me, that way could only properly have been yes.
The Trinidad and Tobago government fails to get whistleblower protection legislation passed. The details after the break.
Even my family, they were cracks. You know, I think if I'd gone back and had my own accommodations that I'm accustomed to, it would have been a different thing. But when you go back and you say, okay, I'll stay with family and so on, after a while they get tired of you, man. Face reality, you know.
Or
And
you
maybe
get tired of being,
them.
yeah, you get
know.
tired of
It's the
bunking,
same-
so to speak.
Yes.
Yeah.
Welcome back. Opposition legislators in Trinidad and Tobago have prevented the government from passing legislation to protect whistleblowers. On Monday night, after 2 days of debate on the whistleblower protection bill that the government said was necessary to end a culture of corruption in the Twin Island Republic, the opposition voted against it. The Keith Rowley-led administration had said the legislation was meant to empower people to expose improper conduct in both the public and private sector and to protect them when they do. The bill required a 3/5 majority in order to pass, but the United National Congress UNC went against it, claiming that the measures contained in the legislation go against the Constitution. Opposition leader Kamla Prasad-Besessar said the opposition did not trust the government and the legislation was flawed in many ways. Among her concerns was that people's rights would be infringed upon.
And so we come to 19.1 here. Notwithstanding any other law, a whistleblower who makes a protected disclosure is not liable to any criminal, civil, or disciplinary proceedings for having made such a disclosure. Not subject to any criminal or civil proceedings. Madam, you cannot take away the right of an individual to go to court to have their rights determined. A whistleblower does something that is contrary against your rights. You cannot take away that right.
Prasad-Besessar said while Attorney General Faris Al-Rawi, who moved the bill, had indicated the legislation was different from what had been brought to Parliament in 2015, the concerns which she outlined had been raised then and they remain valid now. Al-Rawi questioned why the opposition was so against the legislation, and National Security Minister Stuart Young was adamant that the bill struck at the heart of corruption and had people who may have engaged in corruption nervous. Well, when the vote was taken, 22 government legislators voted in favor of the bill, while 16 opposition members of parliament voted against. The other 3 legislators in the 41-member parliament were not present at the time of the vote. The World Bank has told the Jamaica government it needs to reduce bureaucracy to ensure continued economic growth. The Washington-based institution says this is one of the reforms needed if the country is to remain on a path of economic advancement. More in this report from TVJ News.
World Bank Vice President for Latin America and the Caribbean, Axel van Trotzenberg, is giving the government a wake-up call. He says while the economy grows, the government still needs to ensure that the benefits reach every Jamaican. He says tackling bureaucracy is a good place to start.
We will need to look at the regulatory environment. It needs to look at how you can create jobs. And the biggest part of the job is created by the private sector. So how is the investment climate? How can one stimulate private investment?
He says further reforms are needed.
My sense is that Jamaica has more potential to grow stronger, but that will need to be nourished through these reforms that could really boost further private sector investment and employment.
In the meantime, Mr. Van Trotzenberg is encouraging local exporters to use creative ways to overcome the global trade turmoil created by the United States and China.
There, people can be very imaginative and successful. And I would rely more at the ingenuity of Jamaican exporters than waiting for that conflict to be resolved that is outside of the control of the country. I think that the country has a lot of also attractions, like for the tourism industry. There are more things that can be done.
Ahead in Newsline Sport, West Indies crashed to an 8-wicket loss to Bangladesh in the second match of the Tri-Nations Series. Stay with us.
I'm here with the saxophonist, Ricardo Seals. He just tore the stage down. The crowd wanted more, and he did give them more. Tell us, we heard a little bit of everything in your performance.
Well, as an artist, as a performer, as a saxophonist, I like to give the people what they want, actually. I'm an entertainer.
So I got the coals on the grill already, and we're just gonna start getting this stuff ready. So we've only got coals on one side of the grill, and basically we just want to get a nice sear on. Testing it with the thermopan from Hostmile or Housemile. And today we're gonna be eating it with some rice and peas and some steamed cabbage. So you can see the jerk chickens off the grill.
Brunswick promotion is on, and we visited wholesales and supermarkets in Maypen to hear how consumers feel about the Brunswick products. I love the tuna. What's your favorite?
I grew up eating Brunswick. It's like a tradition, the parents, and then it handed down to me, and then my kids, them, you know, 'cause that's all they say I buy in the house, Brunswick. So if they're gonna buy a sardine on the street, they're gonna buy Brunswick.
Brunswick sardine has been a favorite of Jamaicans for decades.
Stylish Shea Hope stroked his second straight one-day international 100 and fourth in 8 innings, but a ragged fielding effort saw West Indies crash to an 8-wicket loss to Bangladesh in the second match of the Tri-Nations Series on Tuesday. Opting to bat first at Castle Avenue, West Indies were restricted to a disappointing 261 for 9 off their 50 overs, with Hope top scoring with 109 off 132 deliveries. Roston Chase chipped in with 51, while opener Sunil Ambrose, who replaced the injured John Campbell, got 38, as West Indies found themselves well poised at 205 for 2 in the 41st over. But they lost their last 7 wickets for 55 runs in the last 10 overs.
Get them. Some early blows from Ambrose, having survived those, and also from Hope as well. As the West Indies look to build their total. Ambrose made it to 38. Before he was caught spectacularly in the offside. And Darren Bravo out, maybe in slightly controversial circumstances. He didn't believe he hit it. And they were 2 down. And then Hope made his 50. Didn't celebrate too much, actually, Hope, but he was joined by Rustin Chase in the middle, and they set about making the target.
Yes, indeed, good batting from these two. And Shea Hope continues his tremendous form in these series. These are beautiful punches and pulls. Celebrating his 100. Sedated, and nevertheless very happy. And Shea Hope, second 100. And there, continue to bat beautifully. Rustin Chase bringing up his 50. His maiden ODI 50. And then that will continue. And this is the wicket of Rustin Chase.
Yeah, this is when the wicket started to fall. It was a lovely steepling catch by Rahman, and the captain himself, and very influential towards the end of his spell, taking 3-4 off the last 2 overs. From his point of view, bowled 10 overs, 3-49, so it was a very good comeback from Bangladesh. It was a big 6 from Ashley Nurse into the crowd. A couple of lofty blows towards the end of the innings, and this is a brilliant running catch from Shakib Al Hassan, two-handed. He enjoyed that, didn't he? Good fielding, good bowling performance.
In reply, attacking openers Tamim Iqbal and Sumia Sarkar lashed half-centuries, while veteran Shakib Al Hassan unveiled a classy unbeaten run-the-ball 61, propelling Bangladesh to their target with 5 overs to spare.
Accelerated nicely. Deft touch off the spin of Nurse was a sign of his innings, and a nice sweep. Using his feet nicely, Tamim Iqbal. Rocking back. This was the dismissal. A really good catch by Darren Bravo to take Sumya Sarkar's wicket for 73 off 61 balls. But that brought Shakib Al Hassan in. Fancy footwear, fancy stroke play. Lots of power on the pull shot as always. Very good square of the wicket. Shakib Tamim brilliantly caught. Jason Holder off the bowling of Shannon Gabriel, who was decent today. And Shakib Al Hassan was absolutely fantastic with the bat. And Mushfiqur Rahim, as he always does, comes in, looks busy, before you know it, he's on 20 not out. Shakib and Mushfiq, excellent partnership to see the side home. Bangladesh winning by 8 wickets.
Finishing the innings as well, Shakib, rightfully so. Wonderful start to this Tri-Nation series.
Cricket West Indies President Ricky Skerritt has reacted to the passing of West Indies cricket legend Seymour Nurse, saying the region has lost a legend. The Barbadian, who played 29 tests between 1960 and 1969, passed away on Monday at the age of 85 after battling illness. Nurse scored 2,523 runs at an average of 47.6, including 610 half-centuries. The stylish batsman scored a career-best 258 in his final innings in Tests before quitting international cricket. In a statement issued Tuesday, Skerritt said Nurse was one of the greatest batsmen ever to play the game and typified all the best of West Indian batting, flamboyant stroke play combined with powerful hitting and an insatiable appetite for runs. The CWI boss recalled that he once worked closely with Nurse when he was the liaison officer for the West Indies under-19 team in the 1980s, and over the years they'd enjoyed conversations about the game whenever they had a chance to speak. Skerritt has said Nurse would be fondly remembered not only for the legacy he created on the field of play, but the way he represented the game off the field. To football action now, Barbados went down to Canada 4-0 in their second match of the CONCACAF Under-17 Championship in Florida on Monday. The defeat for the Caribbean side came on the heels of a 1-all draw against Guatemala on the opening day and a 6-1 drubbing at the hands of the powerful United States on Saturday. Jason Russell-Rowe opened the scoring for Canada in the 14th minute before an own goal by Barbadian defender Andre Averwaite off a Simon Colling free kick gave Les Rouges a 2-0 lead at the break. The victory for Canada now put them in the next round of the competition. They will play Curacao on Thursday and must reach the semi-final round to book their place in the 2019 Under-17 World Cup in Brazil. Cayman's senior cricketers are padding up for their season of T20 cricket. They're set to take on Canada, the United States and Bermuda in the ICC T20 World America's Cup regional qualifier set to take place from August in Bermuda. In this report by Cayman 27's Jordan Armanese, head coach Peter Anderson is confident about Cayman's chances against the North American teams.
The ICC regional finals are scheduled to be held in Bermuda from the 18th to 25th of August, with Cayman opening the tournament against Canada at the National Stadium in Hamilton, Bermuda, August 16th. The top two teams will qualify for the 2019 ICC T20 World Cup qualifier. That's in the United Arab Emirates in October, November. And Anderson says Cayman has as good a chance as any after qualifying over a year ago.
The secret with the special associate countries is peaking at the right time. It's been a long build-up. I expect the guys to really come out in force in the next 2 or 3 weeks. I've given them the leeway to play the 40 over to get some match fitness. The T20 starts on Sunday. We met the selectors last night and we're just minimising the squad. Hopefully by next week we'll let everyone know what's happening there.
And that's the sport for today. We'll be right back with the highlights after the break.
Coming up, Central America with a Caribbean twist. Welcome to Belize. It's a tasty tour with some satisfying stops in Barbados. The excitement of Caribbean Week New York with touches of art and music. It's all next, right here on Caribbean Passport on this station.
She's a very textbook orthodox boxer. So you can't sort of anticipate what she's going to do. And like I said,
Beto, go ahead.
Yeah, there was no instruction from Manny Robles in between rounds for Oscar Negrete. It was just motivation. They were pleading with him.
The fighting pride of Quebec, Canada, ladies and gentlemen.
Again, the major developments of this day: Grenada becomes Liat's 5th shareholder government, and in sport, West Indies crashed to an 8-wicket loss to Bangladesh in the second match of the Tri-Nations series. And that's Caribbean Newsline. For news and sport around the clock, subscribe to economnews.com. For more of our programming, log on to CaribVision.tv and check out our YouTube channel. We'll be back here again tomorrow. But from all of us at CMC News, thank you for watching and have yourselves a good night.